A long time ago, me and my friends decided that every time the birthday of one specific friend came around, we will hike a hill that was located 40 minutes away from where we lived. Each year, one of our parents would take us there and leave us for a couple of hours by our own. And year by year, we got better and better on reaching the top of that hill. After a while, we started getting tired of using the common path, since a lot of people will use it because it was the intended way for residents of the area to reach the top. In other words, it was the easiest path available. So we decided to start hiking from the opposite side of the hill, where we will meet beautiful virgin land, where we will start a new adventure. There were lots of ways to go about it. Some of us climbed walls, some just used big rocks to reach higher places. There were dangerous cacti everywhere, which I got stuck in my hands multiple times, and it's a painful experience to take all of those huge spikes one by one out of your hand. And it was full of this plant, or I guess ivy, that we colloquially know as pegarropa in Mexico, literally meaning clothes stickers or cloth grabbers. These little fuckers will stick on every single piece of your clothes, duh, and they will break through it and start stinging you every time your skin even dare to rub against an inch of your clothes. I'm sorry, I just really hate those things. In the new path, we even found the snakes. And once, and I kid you not, we were stopped in our tracks by a freaking bull. It was tiring, painful, and sometimes dead as dangerous. And you know what? We loved every single second of it, because it was our adventure and no one else's. We were by our own. We were exploring at our heart's content, and each time it was a different experience. Sometimes we will get up there no problem, and other times my friend will take out his shirt and use it as a shield to break a fucking wall of tree branches blocking our way. I'm friend with animals, I tell you. And when we finally reached the top, everyone had different rituals. I used to lay underneath a huge tree while eating sandwiches, while one of my friends ate chips like a maniac. And one crazy motherfucker just started doing fucking yoga. It was so bizarre that we even joined him once. One year, we took a different path that led us to a place we never seen before. And that place, there was this cave. And we were attracted to it instantly, like frame one, fucking Jokerbuck's airspeed, you know? And when we came closer to it, it was pitch fucking dark. We were scared. We wanted to go in, but we didn't want to get hurt. And in between all the darkness, we saw that in one of the many walls inside the cave, there was something written in a rock. The word Jesus. So, we as a team decided that next year we will come back to that place prepared and explore what we now called Jesus Cave, or Chuy's Cave, because in Mexico we call the guy's name Jesus Chuy. So, 1 year later, we all gathered outside of Jesus Cave. 2 of us with powerful flashlights, all of us with huge backpacks in our backs, massive sticks, and a freaking knife to protect ourselves from any animals that may appear in the cave. We stood in front of it, nervous, with cold sweat in our foreheads, scared, but most importantly, excited. We were going to explore something new in our favorite hill, in one of our favorite gathering spots, by ourselves. We were taking a step into the unknown. And my friends, the feeling me and my friends had in our guts at the moment we stepped into that cave, that hunger for exploration and to find out what lies beyond those dark corners, that is the appeal of open world games. Video games attempt to give their players escape from the day-to-day life, giving us the opportunity to be a fox with metal legs that controls some massive spacecrafts and shoot bad guys while doing barrel roll. Or literally transform yourself into a yellow ball that eats pallets and uses rights for social distancing from colored ghosts.
What did he say?
The video games are amazing. They are divided in so many genres that I will not list out because I was forced to do it in my thesis and I will crumble to PTSD if I attempted to do it again. But the important genre for today's video is going to be the open world genre. It's one of my favorites in the whole gaming landscape for the simple reason that I love world building. I love losing myself in these beautiful crafted worlds. That's why I really enjoy Avatar, One Piece and Pokemon. Their worlds feel so alive that I can't help myself but to be engrossed in them. It's such a shame that Pokemon can't seem to put their world in a good fucking game.
Oh shit, here we go again.
So, before talking about it, we have to understand where the hell open world games came from. And believe it or not, open world / adventure games were the first games that were incorporated for a big audience, since all of this world exploration phenomena started with a very famous game called Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, that nerd shit. The game they play in Stranger Things, the game Jade plays in her latest video, and the game Baldur's Gate 3 is based on. You see, this game is all about being put in a situation and moving freely through it, and fuck around with your friends, but big emphasis in the freedom part. The selling point in this game is that your imagination is the only thing between you and a wonderful experience. If the Dungeon Master puts a dragon in front of you, you could attempt killing it with magic, or using a sword, or simply use a mousetrap to crush its balls. Yeah, that is a real option you have in Dungeons and Dragons. And this concept of putting the players in a beautiful and imaginative world with bizarre experiences and giving them the freedom to fuck around is the base of all the adventure games for the future. And most importantly, the base of open world games. With the first example ever being the text-to-adventure games.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
No, really, listen to me. Follow me on this trip. Just think about this. These were games based on D&D, where you were put in a wonderful and magical world and you choose your own commands to start exploring it. You were discovering something with the help of your imagination. You were just being guided through it, since it was the first time this happened and players needed explanation of how it worked. Games like Adventureland, Zork, and early Sierra games like Mystery House, they were just putting you in an imaginative situation, just like the Dungeon Master will do, and then you decided by yourself what to do. And little by little, you will uncover all the mysteries of these uncharted lands. Remember this is a key aspect of open world games, the freedom part. And if this sounds familiar, it is because it's the exact premise of the most successful open world game of its time, The Legend of Zelda, for Nintendo Entertainment System. This game was a juggernaut of gaming. People went crazy for the game, and it created, at the time, what would be the third biggest Nintendo franchise, just behind Mario and another RPG inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, Dragon Quest. And here's another important thing. Even though both of these games are based on D&D, the difference between them is a really important one for the future of game design. While Dragon Quest is a scripted adventure, Zelda pushes you into the wild and let you mess around and find out a lot, and all by yourself. It took you months to finish the game. You needed Nintendo Power Hour tips because the world was massive for the time, and you needed to find a lot of secrets by your own merit, opening the door for other developers to create open world experiences, like Crystalis. And of course, there were games before Zelda that were open world, like Ultima 1 and Hyrule. But none of these were as successful as Legend of Zelda. Miyamoto, the creator of Zelda, as if he needs an introduction, describes the push to create Zelda being born by the desire he had to explore caves near the place he lived. And that really connects with me, as you can tell by this point. And not only me, the success of this game comes from people that share the desire of being transported to a world of their own and explore it to their heart's content. So now that we saw the public were open to open world games, gaming companies will start to get deeper and deeper into the creation of these giant worlds. At this time, we have really famous companies that thrive by doing open world experiences, such as Rockstar and Bethesda. But with the time and how the gaming community has evolved, there are a lot of things that change in the video game landscape. People now wanted epic stories being told with beautiful graphics, and they started to miss the point of video games altogether. But that's a video for another day. In 2017, Nintendo released one of their biggest projects yet, a reimagining of one of their biggest franchises ever, is Zelda. We all know it's Zelda at this point. Breath of the Wild was a giant game full of wonderful vistas, really evolved gameplay, and a new and fresh direction for open world games. Its success was big enough that a lot of franchises will start to dip their feet in the open world genre again, creating an era of Breath of the Wild copies, where we will see the birth of massive gaming names, such as Genshin Impact. Yeah, that means Jimmy here can be freed from. Games try to emulate the success that Zelda got with the open world treatment, but the companies and even the public started missing what makes Zelda work, what made the game stand out, and what should be the approach when building an open world game. And just thinking that you already know what you want in a game, it doesn't make it right. Right, Starfield? I'm a pretty elevated experience only for the fuck you. So, bear with me as I share with you 3 keys that every open world game should have in the modern age of gaming. And hopefully, with this you will understand why Zelda is going to stand the test of time, and a lot of these other open world games won't. So, bear with me, and let's talk design. This first key isn't going to rewrite your mind or anything. If your game is described as an open world, congratulations, you probably have it already. Even Pokemon got it right. Kind of. The key is to have an open world. Okay, well now let's dig into what having an open world means. Your game should have a huge map for your players to explore, and the player should be able to do just that. Exploring. Every single nook and cranny of your game should be accessible to the player. Let's remember that this whole operation is based in Dungeons and Dragons philosophy. So create a world that your player will be interested in and let your player explore it to its heart's content. But don't make your world an empty 2D plane. It should have different terrains, mountains, forests, caves. Let's not just make it a boring experience where you can walk for 1 hour without anything to do. We can see how Starfield breaks this rule and makes exploration boring. And then, giving you nothing to do after reaching an interest point is such a bold move.
Anything? Anything at all going on inside here?
Yes.
Just smooth like an egg in there, isn't it?
Pokemon is described as an open world now, but it breaks one of the rules mentioned here too, since not every area in the game is reachable since the beginning, and it works more like a Metroidvania game, where certain parts of the map are blocked until you complete a certain part of the game to unlock your progression through it. And okay, let's bring back the freedom again. Even though they show you where every single gym is, they do not scale, and you have to do it in certain order if you want to have an enjoyable experience. Some of them are even blocked by those abilities that I mentioned before. Freedom and a captivating world to explore should be the first priorities in an open world. Now, let's see how Zelda does it. There are rivers, and you may not have the stamina to cross it swimming. So, you're telling me the game is stopping you, like Pokemon? You're telling me Zelda sucks? No, shut up. You see, Zelda really uses that freedom part to its advantage, since you may not have the stamina, but there are countless ways for you to cross. And some of them make use of that exploration we've been talking about. You could find an Octorok and discover that their gods can make stuff fly. So you could use a tree to get to the other side if you attach Octorok gods to it. Or in Breath of the Wild, you can use your freeze rune thingy to cross. Or even use bombs. Yeah, there are obstacles in the world, since it shouldn't be an easy exploration experience or a monotonous one. But using everything around you that you discover because you went exploring is a fucking rewarding experience on its own. And sadly, this is where most of the open world experiences die. This is it. That's where they draw the line and say, my job is done, I created an open world experience, now give him $1 million. When in reality, as I said, this is the easiest part and just the beginning of the design aspect. Games like Pokemon that keep their core gameplay but in an open area. Games like Sonic that have the same exact gameplay but in an open area. Red Dead Redemption, GTA, Assassin's Creed, Elden Ring, Starfield. This is where all of them fall in this trap. If an open world was really the fact that you could just walk around the world, it will be so easy to program a character in Unreal and put it in a generated field and call it a day. Because these games doesn't really change the experience of their non-open world games to the ones that are. It's the same concept, just with free space from one point of interest to another. And there are ways for battling this monotonous gameplay problem. A way to make your world feel alive, and not just being Dark Souls, but with a horse ride from one level to another. Let's be clear, I love Elden Ring, and From Software games. And even though the world is fucking beautiful, it didn't exploit what an open world game could be. This key is something that I'm yet to see more in open world games, but even games that are in open world get it right sometimes. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but even Pokemon got it right. That's right, Pokemon Legends Arceus, the best Pokemon game ever created. Fight me, I don't care, fight me.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Pokemon Legends Arceus got it right in one of their little open areas. More of this and we will be eating so good. If you saw my Pokemon video, you remember how much I praised The Legend of Zelda for having what I call biomes. These biomes are the changes the map has that affect your gameplay and make the world feel more alive. These changes can affect your gameplay more than you think. Let's put GTA and Elden Ring as an example. In both games, the maps have no change whatsoever in how you approach it, meaning that if you played in an area of the game, you know how everything else will play out. If you steal stuff in some place in GTA and escape from the police, it's going to be the exact same experience in the other corner of the map. In Elden Ring, if you fought something at the beginning of the map, it's going to be the same experience at a different dungeon. Of course, the difficulty and the weapons change, but there isn't really anything appealing in the world. It could just have been another Dark Souls game, like any other, and it would have been the same core experience, really. Let's put it in perspective with other two games that almost got it right, being Pokémon Legends Arceus and
Genshin Impact.
You see, in Pokémon Legends, there are a difference in biomes, and when you don't have your Pokémon to traverse seamlessly through them, you can be stopped by bunches of mud or making your speed and dodge accuracy fall because you're fighting on a little lake. Having trees that makes it harder for you to hit your Pokéballs or see small creatures.
What?
And that's it! They had the right idea, but they stopped too short. They made a world where your experience would change depending where you are, instead of having the same experience from the first hour of the game. And Genshin had the same idea too. They just implemented it in other parts of the game, where they didn't have the impact they should. In Genshin, we have a lot of different elements, and when they are combined, they have different effects. They even have a journal in game so you can see what effects can be triggered by combining all the elements. And this makes your gameplay change a little. For example, if you have a character that uses water to attack, and you're facing an ice enemy, you are running the risk of being frozen, since the elemental attacks also applies to you. Making you have this risk hanging in front of your face at all times is a good way for bending your playstyle to be safer around these fights. They even have a huge mountain that has a meter of how cold you are, and if you reach a certain point, your health will start depleting, and freeze attacks can make that bar feel faster, so it changes the way you approach fighting. It's awesome! But sadly, this is the only part in the game where this kind of gameplay is implemented. They keep the same monotonous gameplay outside of here, and these elemental combos risk stay with the enemies and the enemies alone, and they keep their open world as plain as the rest, outside of this mountain. If they added more of this factor to the world instead of just the enemies, I think the game would be a better experience, and will decrease the risk of being so repetitive as it is today, since if you experience the first hour like these other games, it's going to be more of that, without a change. So, let's see how Zelda works around this. And if you haven't noticed, Zelda is going to be the golden child here, and we are going to use it as the game we base everything around. In Zelda, we have mountains, caves, deserts, and every single one of them change the style you have to approach the game. For example, in snowy areas or high mountains, the temperature is going to get low, making your character take damage in short periods of time, until you do something to warm him up. Or at the same time, the desert makes your character take damage because of the heat. And both the snowy and the desert areas make your character move slower because of the sand and the snow, making it harder for you to get the fuck out of there. Your health is low. Also, there are volcanic areas that make your wooden weapons catch on fire. And you might be saying, well, then I'll use metal weapons. And the game is going to spit on your face and say nah, because there are storms every now and then that render your metal weapon useless. Also, there are tropical areas near the shore which have higher chances of having storms. And unless you want to take a freaking thunder straight to your freaking face, you should have a wooden weapon. And there are also things so simple like having places heavily packed with trees. And those areas make fighting a lot harder since you can move properly around them. And that's not all. Now in Tears of the Kingdom we have sky islands that make gravity fucking go to sleep, letting you glide for bigger stretches, or just jump like a crazy mofo. And the depths that have you throwing light plants every freaking 10 seconds and avoiding the gloom. Otherwise your hearts will break and you won't be able to heal them back up unless you are prepared with specific dishes, making it dangerous to be down there and motivating you to create vehicles to move around the gloom. See how wonderful that world is? The world feels alive and has its own personality, and you remember the places not only because how they look, but because how it felt to play in those areas. And let's remember the freedom portion of the open world games. You might, and I say might because I don't think you are that dumb. Mwah, kisses. If for any reason you're saying, okay, you're telling there are places that are cold and may harm you and stuff like that, isn't that telling me that there are places that need specific stuff to go through them? And if that is the case, wouldn't that make those places exactly like the Pokemon Metroidvania worlds we talked about before? No, shut up! And here is why. In Pokemon you need the climb ability to reach those high areas, and that's it, there is no moving around that. While here, you could explore and find out that there are potions or dishes that can be created to withstand the weather effects, but just for a while, so it makes you have to brute force it with the constant fear of running out of protective effect, making a change in gameplay. Or you could explore more and pack a shit ton of healing items and just go through it while eating like a mad lad. Or use a torch to move through it, but if you do, you are limiting your ability to fight, so you need to play in a more stealthy way, or believe in yourself and dodge all upcoming attacks. And because you're in a snowy area, you can find value in different equipment like your shield. It becomes more useful because you can snowboard. The shield surfing is so smooth in this area, not like in the other biomes. So whenever you see the shrine you want to reach, you could just tank the damage while shield surfing towards it. I think this really explains why the World Zelda build really works. You see how many scenarios we just created to reach one freaking shrine? Out of the 200 plus the game have, there are a lot of possibilities, and your approach is going to change depending on where you are. The world is breathing, and you are enjoying your time in it. This scenario building couldn't happen in Pokemon or Elden Ring. In GTA, maybe, but the thing is that those scenarios you build in your mind in GTA can work everywhere in the map, while the ones we just built are for this area and this area alone. If you are going to make an open world game, make your players feel like they are in a world, not in a 2D plane. Please, we need more of this. And this isn't it. There is still a third key. One that can change your world from being awesome, just like the one we just talked about, to one that rebuilds the whole open world genre. The hidden sauce to make your game for a good open world to a groundbreaking one. Not so long ago, Epic Games put Elder Scrolls Online as one of their free games, and me and a friend installed it because we wanted to give it a try. And once we finished the tutorial, we were sent to this beautiful land with giant mushrooms and weird plant life, and I was excited. I wanted to see what the world was going to add to the experience. But after a while, I realized this world is just a background. It's just there to make the game feel more pretty. It's like those old cartoons that had the background with such a different art style that you could point out what was going to move in that scene and what was just a background detail. And here, it felt just like that. It didn't matter if I was in a cave or in this weird plant forest. The gameplay was going to be the same and limit to the same loop. Needless to say, I did not like the game. But right there, I understood what differentiates Zelda from other open world games and what these games need to become even better. Let your player interact with the world. Zelda Breath of the Wild let you interact with its world since the beginning, shooting beasts from trees, cutting trees to make a bridge, starting a fire in grassy areas, or just pushing a goddamn rock. Hell, it even goes even deeper with the Shake-a-Slate. We can use it to interact with any metal object or make time stop for a specific object, or even an enemy in the late game, and create ice pillars from any water body. And with all of this combined, we also get to experience physics. We are not just a character bound to the same movements. We can use fire to create gust of winds and take flight. We can explode stuff and make them fly away. We can stop time for a specific object and charge it with kinetic energy and then use it to our advantage. Hell, we can even use the items we collect from enemies like the Octorok balloons for making things float and control them with our Korok leaves. The game lets you explore all the possibilities that this physics can give you. The only thing in your way is your imagination, like in Dungeons and Dragons. And this is even taken further when playing Tears of the Kingdom, since now everything can be fused into your weapons. This care put into the world can go so far in making the players feel inside the game. It makes every decision they make feel like their own experience, and theirs alone, no one else's. That is the promise of an open world. Remember that. When the exploration and the interaction with the world goes this deep, they can even forget that they are playing Zelda, or Sonic, or Elden Ring, because they feel like themselves. When you put them into an open world, they should feel like exploring by their own leash, no matter if it's the world of Hyrule, or Eldinia, or Sonic Land. I don't know the names. They want to get lost in the world, so let them explore it and interact with it as they wish. When you decide to create an open world, the world becomes the main character in itself. It should be as important or even more important than your title character. Also, a really important thing is the gameplay, but hell, that is a whole different cake. And this video took me long enough, and we will have to talk about different stuff from zero, and that's for another day. And one of the easiest ways to make your player interact with the world is adding a crafting system. Yeah, it's literally a cheat. It can make your world feel less empty since they are going to be picking everything up the freaking ground, just because there is going to be a moment when the material they picked up will come in handy. And for it to feel that way, you should make the crafting system important, not just an afterthought. If you don't implement it well, people are just never going to be using it. In Elden Ring, I never crafted anything, and I really don't need to. In Pokémon Legends Arceus, it felt really good to craft my Pokéballs in the go, or potions to keep exploring for a little bit longer. But after a while, you can just buy whatever you need in stupid quantities, and be done with it. It's faster and easier, and you don't need the money for anything else. And in Breath of the Wild they understood this. Crafting, or in this case cooking, was used mainly for dishes to recover health, stamina, boost search and stats, or protect you from the weather. It is really cool and versatile for the player, but it isn't needed. So Tears of the Kingdom came up with the awesome idea of adding stuff everywhere, but not for crafting or cooking. Everything you pick up is part of your arsenal now. Fire fruits for fire arrows, the blinky stinky fruit for having fucking flashbangs, ice fruits for ice arrows. Even bokoblins leave horns behind that can be used for fusing to your weapons and make them stronger, or just making the damage of a single arrow greater. They really cracked the code for making everything useful and fun to mess around with, since there are a lot of really cool and funny fusions that you really need to fuck around to find them out. And now even the trees can be used to make cars or different contraptions. Even though this is the same map from the last game, the world really became bigger just by changing your ability to interact with it. I think there are open worlds with really good ideas in the gameplay, like Horizon Zero Dawn. It feels really cool to use a rogue weapon to pin flying enemies into the ground and destroy their different parts. But the lack of variety in gameplay and in how the world is created really puts it a little bit down. It's a good game, you can have a good time, hell I had a good time, but it will not change how you see video games or how you experience them. It's nothing new. You can find close to the same experience with other games. And the Zelda franchise really is spoiling us to the point that we see gaming different, to the point that everyone wanted to simulate what Zelda did, without understanding how it did it. We can say we want an open world with Sonic or with Assassin's Creed, but without knowing what an open world really is, we get half-baked ideas that doesn't wow us or reinvent the wheel as Zelda did 3 times to this day. When gaming is trying to give us these huge promises and ideas, but they don't really know how to implement it, or they don't even know what they should pursue, time just stops. And we play the same game over and over and over with different presentations. We need an evolution, and it begins with understanding what makes a genre what it is, outside of all the hundreds of genres out there. If you only have a giant 2D plane to explore, you can be called an open world game. If your open world has bumps in how you have to approach it, like different biomes and gameplay changes, you are an open world. And if you can interact with your world and make it feel alive outside of your characters, make the players feel lost, excited for what's to come, makes them have their own experience that will differ from other players, or just make them feel like me and my friends felt while we stared back at that cave, prepared for what's to come with a smile in the face, my friend, you have a good open world game. Thank you for watching as always. If you like what you saw or dislike it, or even just want to fight me in the comments, please push that subscribe button. It really helps me to keep doing videos like this. And just as I'm trying to share with others how I perceive and enjoy video games, I can learn in the way too. So let's enjoy and discuss video games together.